What do you do when it's time to plant your warm season crops like tomatoes, but in the bed that you want to plant them in, you still have your cool season crops growing? Enter succession planting. In this bed, I have 2 rows here of greens. This particular greens mix, aren't they gorgeous? This is the cheap frills mix from Johnny's. This is the premium greens mix, and I planted that probably a couple of months ago, and then I've got another succession planting here that's coming in behind it. That way I can have these greens for many weeks on end. And usually greens in my climate will last till about the middle of April to the middle of May, just depending on how hot we get. But at that time, it's about time to start planting warm weather crops. And so instead of harvesting all of this, and then as you can see, we've got some of these coming up still behind it, I want to find a way to be able to plant these tomatoes in the midst of these greens without having to harvest them all. The benefit to doing it this way is that you can get more harvest from the same amount of space. And even though there will be a short time where the tomato plants, and also I'll be adding peppers in here a couple of weeks later, and these greens will grow together, for the most part, they'll only grow together at a short period of time before these will start to bolt, or they're not going to be edible because it'll get too hot in my climate. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to situate these tomato plants right in the midst of the greens themselves. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm actually going to add a couple of peppers here to go in between. They really like the heat, and it's not quite time to plant the peppers. But basically the way that I'm doing this is, yeah, we'll go ahead and harvest some of this to make a little bit of room for the tomato plant, but I'm not going to have to harvest it all. I'm just going to make a little bit of a hole to put this tomato plant here, and the greens can grow around the tomato plant. Now the benefit to this is not only will I be able to harvest these greens for as long as I need them, but also as the tomato plants grow, they're going to provide a little bit of shade for the greens, which will hopefully allow them to last a little bit longer before it gets too hot. Because I've had some back issues recently, my friend Tiffany has come over and she's going to help me out with a lot of this today. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut some of these salad greens, because we're going to have a lunch after this. So right here is where we're going to plant this tomato plant, and I just want to make a little bit of room here to give it a little bit more space. So she's just going to cut that lettuce here to make room. And this is one reason that this bed is so good for beginners, because it's so easy to put together, and then you can grow from spring to summer to fall using this succession planting, and this shows how to do it. Now that we've got these beautiful greens harvested and ready for lunch in just a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and plant the tomatoes, and Tiffany's going to help me out with that. Now we have these 3 tomato plants planted here, and we didn't have to harvest our greens, at least not all of them. And so what I'll be doing next is, in a couple of weeks, usually about 2 weeks or so after my last frost has passed, I'll go in and plant some peppers, and I'll probably put them about right here. I'll do the same thing. We'll harvest some, and then that space, the harvest left, we'll put the peppers here. And then I'll probably also start sprinkling in some basil and anything else that's summer related that could go around these tomatoes as they grow. So as you can see, succession planting is one thing that can extend your harvest from the cool season crops to the warm season crops and beyond. And also, if you're interested in this particular raised bed and this configuration, this is the Birdies 8-in-1. I just chose to make it an elongated version so that it would fit this space better. This is the same bed that you've seen in my main part of my garden that I have in a different configuration. And so the thing is that because it's an 8-in-1, you can configure it to fit your space in a variety of ways, and it's the same bed and you can make it work for you. I'll have a link down in the description to check out their selection, and you can use my code Journey with Jill to get 5% off. I appreciate the help from my friend Tiffany to get this space planted today, and I hope what we've done has inspired you to succession plant in your space as well. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this in the upcoming gardening season. And if you're a podcast listener, I have lots of other podcast episodes on succession planting. It's my favorite. We'll put a link to those in the description. I'll see you next week.